Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Buckley. I'm Director of Product Management with DVS Analytics, and I am going to talk to you today about changing your game with audio transcription. Now, I want to start by talking about conversational analytics. Conversational analytics involves converting an audio file through a process known as automated speech recognition into a transcript. And a transcript has a lot of information that we can use in our contact centers. Okay, we can know the text of the conversation, and then we can know various other characteristics about it. And there are a couple that really change the game, and I want to talk to you about those primarily. The two that are the most important, first is sentiment and then phrase content. Okay, sentiment is an attitude expressed through language, and the sentiment tells us that the conversation or the thought or the speaker turn that's being expressed is either positive or negative. And that's important. And there's a couple of ways that we can measure that. Okay, we can measure it by who said it, but then we can also measure it by how much of the call contained positive sentiment or negative sentiment. And that becomes very important as well. Okay. The second characteristic that comes from conversational analytics is the idea of identifying specific phrases. Now, specific phrases have important meaning for a conversation, and these are somewhat unique to each contact center. The phrases that are the most meaningful, if you're a supervisor or you're somebody in QA, tell you information about whether the call is going well, or whether the agent is orchestrating the call the way they're supposed to. So these characteristics form the basis of what we call conversational analytics. Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into each of these and give you some examples, and then I'll show you how they work inside of Encore. Now, when we talk about sentiment, again, sentiment is an attitude towards something expressed in language. So if we're listening to a call and we were to hear things like, "You're wonderful," "The product is awesome," "I can absolutely do that," then we know that we're hearing positive sentiment. On the other side of the coin, if we hear things like, "That's not possible," "This is frustrating," "I've tried several times," then we know that that speaker is expressing negative sentiment. I just mentioned we can measure the agent side of the conversation or the caller side of the conversation. We can also measure the entire conversation. As a result of that ability, we can use sentiment as a metric or as an indicator for how are things going. Are things going well? Are things going poorly? And that becomes an important capability for a contact center. Now, on the phrase side, there are a number of different ways that we can use phrase identification to tell us something about a particular recording without having to listen. just the presence of the phrase means something as to what's in the call. Okay, there's a variety of different things. We can scan for what is the purpose of the call, what different topics are discussed, what is the caller trying to achieve. We can locate certain scripted elements, whether those are an upgrade or upsell ask, or something like a renewal, information about a renewal. We can review compliance requirements. So a particular disclosure statement, wouldn't it be valuable to be able to find all the calls that contained those? And wouldn't it be valuable to be able to demonstrate that capability to entities that you're beholden to in order to meet those compliance requirements, all without having to listen to a call? Certain words and phrases can also be used to assess agent performance. We can tell that the agent is doing what their training requires, or saying the things that need to be said based on what the caller said, because of the phrases that are showing up in the transcript. Or identify process indicators like the verification phase. Was that conducted properly? So there's a whole bunch of different things that we can use conversational analytics to basically help us sift through the massive number of recordings that our QA team is at times trying to listen to as many as they can. We can skip a step in a sense in the ability to identify and quantify these phrases and how often they occur. So let me give you a quick demonstration. This is Encore 9.1, and I'm looking at a particular view. I'm filtering this view on date, and I'm filtering this view on team name. And I've got a number of records. I've got 34 records in this view. And I want to use some of my conversational analytics filters. Okay, so I'm going to open quick filters, and I'm going to start and show you the sentiment filter. Okay, now the sentiment filter defaults to agent positive at least 15% of their participation. Okay, and by activating this filter, I narrowed my records from 34 down to 11. I can tell that about a third of my calls contain positive sentiment at least 15% of the time. Now I can go ahead and change this filter. I can use either the agent, the other party, or all parties in the call. I can search for positive, neutral, or negative sentiment, and I can use at least or at most, set my threshold, and use either percent or turns. Okay, so one of the things I might want to do is I might want to raise this and say, show me calls that have at least 25% positive. And now I narrowed my list down further to 2 records. Now I'm going to open this transcript. I want to show you the transcript. Let me give myself a little bit more room before I do that. Oh, I'm sorry. That was not what I wanted to do. Bring that back. Okay, I'll do 25%. And let me open this one. And I'm going to show you the transcript, okay? The transcript is contained on this new pane. Now, this is a new feature in 9.1, okay? So now the transcript is playing. And if you look at the, as I scroll through, you can see those green indicators are where there is measured positive sentiment, okay? Now, up at the top here is a summary, and this summary has even more information about sentiment. So we can see our agent, Sophia, spoke for 9 turns in this call, and 35% of those turns were positive, 65% were negative. Okay, and similarly, if we look at the entire transcript, we can see there were 19 turns, 23% were positive, and 77 were neutral. I think I said negative on this, I meant neutral. So we have mostly neutral sentiment and then some positive from the agent and no negative sentiment in this call. So you can see how we can start to use sentiment to measure what's going on. And again, we don't have to listen to the call. We can just use this information in the transcript. Now, another feature that's really nice, if we're looking at a transcript and we want to search for a word, let's say I want to search for the word checking. So I can scan and see here is a turn where checking account came up. And if I want to, I can play the recording directly from that point. So a lot of these features are extremely useful for supervisors or QA to locate the specific things that are happening within the conversation and makes them much faster and more efficient at analyzing the content of a conversation. All right, let me bring this back up. I'm going to close this filter, and I want to show you the phrase filter, okay? Now again, the phrase filter is used to search for specific phrases, okay? So there's no default here, so I need to put something in before I can see any results. So I'm going to elect to do a custom phrase, and I want to search for, is there anything else? So this would be a phrase I would likely be searching for, looking for evidence that the agent said, is there anything else I can help you with? And a phrase like that would be located at the end of a call, okay? So I can come over here and I don't want at any time during the call, I actually want to change this and I want to set it to be in the last 1 minute. Okay, so I'm going to add that as part of my filter. Okay, and you can see I got some matches for calls that the transcript contains in the is there anything else? And then I could go look at that. Now I can also stack up searches. So let's say I also was interested in let me go over that. So this is another statement that might be something I scan for as a supervisor. So I'm going to do that, but this one is probably something I would look for at any time in the call, not specifically at the beginning or at the end. So I can add that together, and now you can see I've got a single record that matches those 2 searches. Now, speaking of aggregate searches, one other thing I want to show you is that in addition to just being able to search on any phrase I want to, I can put phrases together that are meaningful as a single search. So let me show you an example of that. We refer to that as a phrase collection. And a couple of examples here are helpful language or slang terms, okay? So these are phrase collections where there's a bunch of terms that are being searched for as a single query. So I can select my phrase collection. This is a phrase collection is built by the customer. You create the phrase collection and add the terms to it. Okay, so now I'm going to search for helpful language at any time, and I'm going to modify my filter. And now Encore went and retrieved the calls that contain helpful language phrases. So what are those phrases? Well, if I manage the phrase collection, I can show you that. And the phrase collection helpful language is defined as any of these phrases. Absolutely, definitely, of course, sure, yes I can, yes I will. So you can put together the different phrases that signify a single idea, like helpful language or slang terms or any other thing that you want to. And this is where we can start using conversational analytics to help automate your QA processes. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that next. So I'm going to shift back over to Encore. To my slide deck. And I'm going to talk about some of the ways that this changes the game for QA. Okay, now the first idea is that I can now conduct much more precise targeting for evaluation sessions. Okay, if you create evaluation sessions today, you're probably using filters like call duration, call direction, maybe ACD name. Those are the types of filters that you're using to create a pool of records that you can evaluate. Now you can add call topic or other key phrases like validation statement, disclosure statement, whatever it is, and you can create the pool for exactly the types of calls that you most want to evaluate, because you're not having to listen to the call and then decide whether it's a good candidate for evaluation, or decide that in the course of conducting an evaluation. Okay, you're doing that up front. And as a result, you're going to get more meaningful evaluations, conceivably from a smaller pool, and you're also going to get better identification of coaching needs, because you can pre-select the calls for evaluation that are the exact kind of calls that you want to evaluate. Okay, so that's a huge assist to the QA team. The second thing is that you can actually eliminate QA for specific attributes. So let me explain what I mean there. Like I showed you the examples of helpful language or slang terms, if you set up a view with those filters, you are able to quantify the presence or absence of those measurables. Is slang terms used very, very infrequently? Is helpful language used very frequently? If you can quantify this per agent or per team, by day or by week, now you have the ability to actually determine whether manual evaluation is needed. If it's already exceeding a threshold, as demonstrated by conversational analytics, you don't need that as another question on your evaluation form. You can take that out of the evaluation form and use conversational analytics to monitor and make sure that it stays at the level that you need. And should it ever drop, then you could add it back in if that was appropriate. Now, I should also mention views have a nice feature within Encore in that you can create alerts should the helpful language, the rate of helpful language within calls, should that start to drop, or should slang terms start to increase. So you can actually have Encore let you know that something out of the ordinary is changing, that there's a trend that requires some intervention. So the result, again, is an increase in the information that is at your QA team's disposal, which results in higher efficiency, more evaluations without the added QA headcount. So audio transcription allows you to see inside the conversation, and that's why this is a game changer. Encore can help improve evaluation efficiency and reduce and or focus the amount of manual QA. Now, audio transcription, it's the ASR process that I mentioned is both fast and accurate. It contains features for labeling the agent as well as scoring the sentiment, as I shared with you. And we support English and other languages as well. So if your contact center has multiple languages, we can support that as well. Now, I think I already mentioned this is only available with Encore 9.1. So I want to invite you to reach out to us and request a trial. You can do that by emailing sales@dvsanalytics.com. If you need to upgrade to 9.1, then we'll work with you and our support team to make sure that we schedule an upgrade for that as part of the activation of the audio transcription. Thank you for joining. And please do send us an email and let us know you're interested, and we'll reach out to you and verify eligibility, work with you on the 9.1 upgrade, and we'll make sure that we get your trial started as soon as possible. Thanks again for your time and attention, and hopefully we'll be talking to you about an audio transcription trial very, very soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye.